Hey, Shelby here with the Genius Entrepreneur Podcast, where I have the opportunity to explore how businesses were built and with people who have created businesses and entered their own expertise into the marketplace. I want to inspire you to think about your expertise in a different way. And today I am excited to get to know Jeff a little bit more, veteran and entrepreneur, and now leadership coach. I want to hear about all of those pieces of influence for your entrepreneurial venture. So, Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me. Um, yeah, small town kid from rural Wyoming, ended up really wanting to be an astronaut. So I pursued flying in the military. Became an aerospace engineer, commissioned into the Navy, flew F-18s off aircraft carriers for about 10 or 11 years. Transitioned to the Montana Air National Guard, got to fly F-16s and F-15s here, and then spent the last 12 years of my military career um, as in different command positions and strategic planning, Joint Force Headquarters, continuous process improvement, and managing people and budgets. And I retired after 30 years. Um, and I'm like, okay, now what? Still pretty young, right? And
Yeah.
made it about 90 days and started peeling layers off the onion. Um, and this is probably one of the big takeaways from the conversation, and for everybody, no matter how old you are or where you're at in your life, is if you really peel enough layers off the onion your own self, which is very uncomfortable sometimes, and figure out what are you missing,
Right.
what's not making you happy, and what was making me unhappy was working with other people, seeing successes, seeing the success of mentoring an individual, of taking a project from cradle to grave, and sometimes seeing it fail and learning from it, which is okay too.
Yeah.
But um, it- so business coaching and leadership coaching was really just seemed to be a good fit. So I sprinkled some yeast on it, let it ferment for another 9 months, and about a year and 2 weeks to the day, I signed on and got involved with a bunch of other like-minded people, Focal Point, and started my business coaching practice about 2.5 years ago.
Nice. Well, I want to talk. I want to talk about that transition and what inspired you to do that. But I want to get more into your background. So it sounds like you did quite a few different things in the military. You flew fighter planes and all sorts of things, and then transitioned. Can you talk a little bit about that? What made you want to do that, and what you wanted to go to space and get into that space? What excited you about that opportunity?
Yeah, and timing's everything. So I
Yeah.
actually had a spot to go to Navy test pilot school, but I couldn't transition out of the squadron in time to take the slot. And so I ended up getting sent to a NATO exchange job, which was killer. It was awesome. I got to
Yeah.
fly with Canadians for 3 years, which is how I met the guys in Montana. Everything
Yeah.
happens for a reason. Um, so what was the catalyst for change? It was kind of the question you asked.
Yeah.
Turns out I had an eye injury that I did not know about. At some point in my career, I got, we think I got lased. And so I developed some eye problems. So about the time that the Montana Air National Guard transitioned out of fighters into C-130s, I also started to manifest this eye condition that I didn't feel like it was safe anymore for me to fly fast jets. Otherwise, I would have continued to chase that. I probably would have moved and be in a totally different state and a totally different space. So back in 2010, 2012, that 2 year time period, I was really faced with a choice of, okay, well, what are you going to do if you can't fly jets anymore? Because that was my passion. That's all I could do. And so it was a dark place for a
I'm
couple
sure it
years,
was.
trying to figure out, you
To
know,
do something that you love and that you enjoy and you're passionate about, and then have to switch. That's a similar to the entrepreneur transition. Like, you finish something and then you're transitioning to something else. It's a similar transition.
yeah, and well, that's exactly what it was, is I got thrown into open water because
Mhm.
from the time I was 4 years old until the time I was 40 something years old, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I knew exactly who I was, and I was branded as a fighter pilot. That's
Yeah.
just who I was. And then my identity was, I mean, the dishes all hit the floor and they shattered into a million pieces. I'm like, oh, geez. So now what? What are you going to do next? And so I made a really, and I use these words very carefully, deliberate and intentional decision to go, okay, these are going to be your limitations as you get older. This isn't, this is not like wine. It's not going to get better with age,
Yeah.
right? Or scotch or whatever. Um, and so I really made this pivot um, to start devouring everything I could about business and I listened to, a ton of books. I had a remote job. I was driving 200 miles a day for the better part of 2 years. And so I just devoured everything I could about business and strategic planning and communication and how to leadership principles, all the stuff that I probably should have been doing in my first 20 years of my military career. Um, to go, okay, what's going to happen next? I don't know, but I kind of created that, and so
Yeah.
that ended up being the incubator for my entrepreneurial journey, which was okay. Well, you lost, and I'll tell you that being in the military, while it's dangerous and everything, it's also this huge safety net. It's like bowling with the bumpers up. If you do it wrong, it's going to bounce the ball back into play. You're going to get bounced back into play.
Yeah.
But once you come out in the
You
wild,
have the
wild
best
west,
expressions.
sorry, they just come to me. It's a gift, I guess.
No,
It's
it's a
my
gift. I love
superpower.
it.
But um, when you when you have, and I don't want to fluff it up, but you're the same person. It takes a lot of courage to file those articles or that C Corp or S Corp or LLC, whatever it is, with Secretary of State, put your name on it and file with the IRS and get your EIN.
Hmm.
It takes a lot of courage and it's kind of scary. And then you're like, oh shoot, um, this is on me now. And so you have to have personal accountability all of a sudden. And so there's a lot of things. And then so you say all that, so a little bit of vulnerability there, but those are the things that you and I both um, help other people overcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm curious, I'm curious about because being a fighter pilot is so specialized, and it's so, I'm assuming, I don't know this world. I've known a few fighter pilots in my days, but I don't know this world at all. But it's intense and it's all about teamwork. I'm wondering if something, what do you think from that experience inspired you to get into leadership? I would assume that you would need to have that confidence and to communicate well and to work well as a team, and that maybe inspired you to delve a little bit further in that when you get into business. What do you think the connection is there, or is there?
Um, well, there's two things. One, I'll tell you, being in a fighter squadron, and I don't care how old the guys are, it's like being on a Little League baseball team. Nobody passes up a chance to hack on somebody else. And I flew with men and women, so it didn't matter. But the thing about the fighter business, and really the military in general, is that at the end of the day, when you go out and you do training, I won't talk about actual combat, but when you do training, it looks sexy in the movies, right? What they don't show you are the 4 to 6 hour debriefs after the 45 to 90-minute flight, where you dissect every single move and action, and it is brutally honest. There is nothing to hide. And it doesn't matter if it's a junior officer debriefing a colonel or the other way around. The playing field inside that debrief is completely level, and it's brutally, brutally honest. And so the benefit to that, maybe the detriment, is that sometimes I'm brutally honest with people when they're not ready for it. Um,
Yeah.
it, it so adapting the communication style and how you got to read the room, right? It's all about the delivery. It's how people hear you. So,
Absolutely.
but that was the big thing. The other thing is that if you're passionate about something, it doesn't matter what it is. I was passionate about flying airplanes. If you're passionate about making candles, if you're passionate about childcare, whatever, or food, whatever it is, if you have that passion, you have a driver and something that motivates you. Um, I guess the moral of that story is don't get a job that sucks, that doesn't resonate with you, right?
Right.
Yeah, if you're doing something you don't like, you're not going to do it well.
Yeah. That's that's very true. And you don't, at least there's should be pieces of it, right? That if even if you don't like, I mean, I don't like everything about being an entrepreneur, I'll tell you that much. But I do like that I can control what I do, and I do like that I can control what goes out into the world, that I have that independence. I'm not a big fan of like accounting and QuickBooks and all that kind of stuff, but I know that's something that needs to be done. But if you have that overall passion and you're making that transformation for others that you're inspired to do, that's one thing too that I noticed about what you're talking about, is that you're still in service. You serve others and you want to see that change in other people in your own way. And I think that's such an important part of being in leadership and being in business development, is that piece alone, because you want to help others succeed too.
Yeah, and it was interesting self-realization, because if you would have told me 10, 20 years ago that I did what really pleased me, like I say, pulling those uncomfortable layers of the onion off, was serving and working with other people, because as a single seat fighter guy, it was all about me, right?
Yeah.
And that was my self-impression. My self-image was I'm I'm King Kong. It's me against the world. It really wasn't true, and I knew that. It was superficial, but that really turned out to be who I am, and what makes me happy is working with other people and seeing them be successful.
Yeah.
Um, that might come with too many birthdays. I don't know. Uh, you know what I mean? Just kind of growing up and being a little bit more mature and not uh, self-centered. But I mean, like, why do you do what you do?
Yeah, it's because I like, similar to you, I like to see the results, and I like to see, I like to see the project or the brand or the business and what we're working on. I like to see success or visibility or whatever the goal is. And I love to be a part of that process. And I think it's because I'm a creator, and and I'm in a space where I'm not allowed to be creative, but I've created a space where I can be creative because it's not the same answer for everybody and it's not the same method for every business, but being able to create that solution and be engage all those different areas and be that problem solver to be able to help other people do that's what makes it exciting for me. I feel there's
Yeah,
similar.
I mean, how cool is it when you see somebody, when you see the physical manifestation on their face when they have that aha moment?
Yeah, it's the best. Yeah.
You know, the only frustrating part is when you see somebody double their revenue, but your rate hasn't gone up.
Yeah. That's another conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. But at the same time, I mean, it still scratches my itch, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm
Yeah.
still extremely satisfied. Um, and as for me, it's not about the money as much. I mean, don't get me wrong, money's important,
Money is
but
important.
um, seeing it, and this was another factor in me deciding to jump on this journey, which is relatively still early in the journey, was I looked around. This was actually the tipping point for me to make the jump. I was driving through downtown central Great Falls, Montana. We've got these beautiful red brick buildings that, you know, are probably 1920s, 1930s construction. Beautiful brick buildings. And here's this building, and it's got plywood up where the windows are supposed to be. And I'm like, this is my community. This is where I live. We can do better.
Hmm.
And, this is where my kids grow up and grew up. This is where other people's kids are going to grow up. I want my community to be better than this. And so that was really the tipping point. I remember clear as day. It was like April of 2022. And driving in downtown, and I'm looking at this awesome red brick building, and I see plywood in the windows, and I'm like, that's BS. We can do better.
Which inspires you to work with other businesses to help that happen for sure.
Well, yeah, because people don't know what they don't know. I mean, they're great at
Right.
their craft. They're good with their hands, maybe not with their heads, because not because they're dumb, it's because they don't know what they don't know. They haven't been educated. And it's not just, people in the trades, which
Right.
you're kind of centric on. But I heard a statistic the other day, uh, to become a dentist, you have to take 92 semester hours. Only 3 semester hours out of that 92 is about running a business.
Right. It's
So you're really good at fixing teeth, but you don't know anything about running a dentist office. But you're going to be the owner of the business because you're going to work less hours and make a lot of money, right? Uh,
mhm.
that's the entrepreneur's trap. Um, so people like that need your help and my help to come in and do some basic blocking and tackling and strategic planning and thinking about what's next, and most importantly, how to manage people.
100%. Absolutely. Which
So
comes all down to the communication piece and being a leader and being a leader in your space, but then also being a leader in business. So I think that's such an important piece. Yeah, Jeff, well,
well,
tell me what else you have planned for your business in this upcoming year. You're a newer business, but what do you envision for your business working one-on-one with businesses? Do you see something else on the plate in the future?
um, well, you and I have talked offline a little bit about doing a little bit more into public speaking
Yeah.
or keynote speaking space. which I'm kind of excited about. I've got a lot of stories. I'll be cliche and I'll say, if I tell you, I have to kill you kind of stories. But
Yeah,
no, but
those
uh,
are always recipe for a good keynote.
um, uh, I think there's a lot of opportunities because we've kind of shared between each other off camera that the economic price point for the value. So I think there's opportunity in Montana and the rural, and I really like working with the Western Plains and Rocky Mountain states because we face different challenges.
Mhm.
And the East and West Coast, the urban environments, they don't necessarily get us, and they don't do business the same way we do. Um, but group coaching, having groups together. Um, I really like the strategic planning space.
Mhm.
Taking people that they're working like hell, but um, they can't seem to get any vertical on the business. Um, it's simply because they haven't written something down on paper saying this is where I want to go, and then you can start working on the how, but
Yeah.
at least define where you want to go. Breaking owner dependency, finding creative solutions for outsourcing, or we know at least locally we're in a hard housing uh, situation. We're in a hard labor availability situation. So we have a totally different problem set than, say, southern Wyoming or northern Utah or eastern Washington. Um, and so and I worked nationally. I mean, I actually almost worked internationally. I almost had a guy from Australia come on board with me. Um, so understanding what those geographic things are, it's a lot of research. It's a lot of work
It is.
sometimes. Um, so it's really, being in third year, trying to establish the brand and get people aware of what we do. And I don't know, do you find in the environment that you're in that people don't understand what you do?
I do because I do because communication and brand strategy it is business strategy, but I think it's when I say brand, people think logo and they don't, and it's much deeper than that. Yes, there is a visual component to it because it's all about the awareness, but there are so many pieces of the brand that tie into your vision and your mission and who you want to impact and who your ideal clients are, that yes, I do feel that. um, but often it is part of a marketing strategy, which a marketing strategy is not a business strategy. Marketing
Right?
is part of a business strategy, and there's different marketing strategies for each business. Like being on Facebook might not be, and running Facebook ads might not be the best strategic choice for your business, so it's all part of that tied together. So I think we combine it with, I mean, the brand strategy it's the strategy of how you're going to be more visible in front of your ideal clients so you can earn some money. So, because business,
Yeah, I mean, and the hard part is what is the unique value proposition? What's the UVP? Um, if you sell a widget, it's easy. I can put the widget in my hand and I can show it to you and say, this is the widget, this is what it does, and this is how it can help you, and this is why it's going to make you happy. Um, in your case, in my case, we're the widget,
yeah.
right? And so, what are you bringing to the table? And really, for me, my philosophy is meet the client where they're at. uh, find out what it is that they want. Sometimes you can recognize what they need, even though they don't know they need it.
Mhm.
Um, but uh, to get them to the point where they acknowledge the dissatisfaction that they have with their current situation and try and offer ways that they can move forward and benefits me, benefits them, benefits the community. Um, that's really kind of my mission. That's kind of my why is
Yeah.
to um, you know move it forward instead of just backward or stagnation. Because we all know what happens when a pond gets stagnant.
Nothing goes away. Yeah, I'm
Well,
excited.
it starts
Excited.
to smell bad.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It yeah, it dies. If you're not growing, yeah, you've got to be adaptable. Yeah, I'm excited about this speaker because that's the other thing about communication and speaking is that yes, it's a skill and it's a necessary skill if you're in business because you've got to sell and that's such an important piece of it. But I'm excited to start this community in Montana because it's not here. The Speakers Association is not here, and I think it's going to be a really good thing to elevate businesses around us to understand how these these essential skills, soft skills, that's what we improve in that space, then it's going to make everything better. So
Yeah, I
excited about that.
couldn't agree with you more. And really, it just comes down. And when we talk about communication, that's really just kind of a cornerstone of of the larger thing that you're trying to do. And I don't care if you're a general talking to private, if you're a CEO talking to the janitor, whatever stereotypes you want to throw on it, you're building relationships.
Hmm.
And so the communication piece is really just the conduit to building a relationship. And if you're not building relationships with your employees, with your bosses, with your customers, um, that's where we fall short. And so you got to get out of your own self a little bit and read the room, and look at the bigger picture of who do I have good relationships with? Who do I need to improve relationships with? And who do I need to establish new relationships with um, to get on a growth trajectory?
Right. Absolutely. Well, Jeff, I always, towards the end of the interview, I ask my guests if they have any advice for people that might be thinking about starting their own business and entering their own genius and expertise into the marketplace. Anything that
It's
you would think to tell people about that?
it's kind of funny because that's the last question I ask people on my podcast as well. So uh, um, and I admit I wasn't quite ready for it, but I'll throw a
And we
few.
live in the same state and we met through somebody in Colorado. That's really, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
like
So
mine.
a couple anecdotal ones that I've taken away from my podcast when I've asked that question. Um, the overwhelming theme of it, and the best that I heard it said is, if you're going to jump in, go all in. This is going to sound completely counterintuitive. Don't have a plan B. Burn the ships on the beach and go all in, and don't look back and be prepared for the suck because it's going to suck sometimes. And enjoy, when it's like planting a fruit tree. You're going to get two apples finally after a couple years. Enjoy them
Yeah.
and keep planting seeds. It takes time. Cash is king. That's the other key thing is make sure you give yourself enough runway before you jump. Give yourself enough runway that you can sustain yourself, so you don't dig yourself too deep of a hole. And believe in yourself. Be be committed. It's scary to
Yeah.
open a
Yes.
business. I mean, I did some scary things, and I, have been shot at. I almost been blown up. A lot of things. Starting your own business is just as scary. So have courage, believe in yourself, and burn the boats on the beach. And go for it.
Go for it. I
Be
feel, I
committed.
feel, I feel like you need to meet my business partner says very similar things. Just go all in. You got to just do it. And it's true because you're never going to know what you can do until you jump off.
It's not over until you quit. And this is a question that I ask people because as a business coach, it's like being a fireman. People don't call you until their house is burning down to the foundation, right? And you're like, okay, how are we going to do this? And if you quit, it's over. How are you going to feel 10 years from now if you quit? Are you going to be going, what if? So I always tell people, don't ever live with what if.
Well, I would say that leadership and business coaching is your genius, and you inspire that in other people. So I
Well,
appreciate
thank you. I
appreciate the
Hey,
conversation today, and I very much look forward to getting this speaking community started. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
yeah, let's run with scissors and break glass. Let's
Yeah.
let's do some stuff. Let's disrupt the system and let's turn it on. Let's shatter the paradigms of Montana and show people what we got.
I can honestly say I think you have the best expressions out of anybody on my podcast.
I'm
So
I'm telling you, it's my superpower. They just come to me. I don't even. It's like every now and then one pops out, and it's like, oh, I want that one back.
I like the running with scissors and breaking some glass. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Sounds good to me. Well, I look forward to being on your podcast, and I am just thrilled that we were able to do this today. So thank you for coming on the interview today, Jeff.
yeah, awesome. Just remember everything that you asked me coming back at you.
Okay. I'll remember that. Can you tell our audience where to find you? That's probably good
Um,
place. I'll include that in the show notes so they all have.
So landing page is Coach Jeff up is um, Jeff Carlton dash Coach on YouTube. You can find me on LinkedIn. Please connect with me. I'll have a conversation with anybody about your business or about uh, personal professional performance or gosh, I've got clients that are in really weird spaces. I'll talk to anybody about anything. Um, so coachjeff.biz, J Carlton, uh, or Jeff Carlton dot focalpointcoaching.com. Um, find me on LinkedIn. Love new connections, especially rural businesses.
Yeah, great. Well, I'll include all of that information in the show notes and yeah, I'm excited for this interview to come out. That'll be great.
Yeah, and I'm excited to put you in the hot seat here in a couple of weeks.
Looking forward to it. Looking
Yeah,
forward. All right, to all
cool.
you genius entrepreneurs out there, this conversation should have inspired you to just do it. Just
Be brave.
jump off the cliff, be brave, and do it because you never know what impact you're going to make or who you're going to meet along the way because you can create whatever you want to out there. So don't be afraid to take that leap.
Love that word, impact.
Yeah, got to make an impact because what else are we doing here? Got to make an impact. All right, all you genius entrepreneurs, we'll see you next time on the Genius Entrepreneur Podcast. Thanks again, Jeff, for joining us.
Thank you.